Welcome back to my November Stories That Make Me Thankful series. I am the Ebony Otaku, the well rounded nerd, and I'm just doing things that make me happy and reading from works that have inspired me and made me reflect on my own life and how thankful I am for where I am. It's November, and in the United States, that's what we do in November. It is the month where Thanksgiving happens, and you know what? This is my way of participating. Today I'm going to be reading from the book Empress by Shan Sa. She's one of my favorite authors who writes of women who lived through some of the older Chinese dynasties. It is a period of time that I am always fascinated with, and no, I did not dress specifically for this today. It's just a coincidence. This is the kind of stuff I wear for work on camera all the time, so I just happened to be dressed this way today, and it worked out. So let's not delay, let's get into it. I'm going to start with our prelogue. The sharp wind and the swift dagger, the only blessings from my ancestors. Quote Shan Sa. Empress, Chapter 1. Endless moons, an opaque universe, thunder, tornadoes, the quaking earth, rare moments of peace. Forehead up against my knees, arms around my head. I thought, I listened, I longed not to exist. But life was there, a transparent pearl, a star revolving slowly on its own axis. I was blind. My eyes stared into that other world, that other existence that dwindled a little every day. Its colors were extinguished, its images blurred. I was still left with cries of astonishment and feeble sobbing. I was oppressed by the impotence of these vague recollections, burned by their melancholy. Who am I? I asked Death as it crouched at my feet. Death moaned and gave no reply. Where am I? I could hear laughter, voices saying, "It will surely be a boy, my lord. He is moving. He is full of life." It mattered little who I would be. I was already weary of this vastness. I was weary of hoping, of waiting, of being myself, the center of the world. I was soothed by the rustle of the wind. I listened to the trickle of the rain. Across my skin, in which the sun never rose, I could hear a little girl singing. I was lulled by her gentle, innocent voice. My sister. I foresaw great sorrow for her. A hand tried to caress me, but a wall lay between us. Oh, mother, the shadow outlined against the screen of my thoughts. Do you realize I am already old, condemned to live within the prison of your flesh? In the depths of the lake, in the sepia-colored waters, I swiveled round, curled up into a ball. I spread my limbs, turned circles. Day by day, my body grew, weighing heavily on me, strangling me. I would have liked to be the prick of a needle, a grain of sand, the flash of sunlight in a drop of water. I was becoming flesh, an exploding flesh, a mountain of folds and blood, a marine monster. One breath raised me up and rocked me. I was irascible. I was furious with myself, with the woman who was my jailer, with death, my only friend. They waited for me. I heard someone whisper that the boy would be called Heavenlight. The rustle of preparations hampered my meditation. They spoke of clothes, celebrations, wet nurses, plump, white, and sturdy. They were forbidden to speak my name, for fear that the demons would possess my soul. They were waiting for me to pick up where their own destinies had left off. I felt pity for these fervent creatures, so affabled and eager. They did not yet know that I would destroy their world to build my own. They did not know that I would bring deliverance. but with fire and ice. One night I awoke with a start. The waters were seething. Furious waves broke over me. I held myself tightly, struggling with my fear and concentrating on my breathing, on my gnawing pain. When the tide surged, I was launched into a narrow opening. I slid between the rocks. My body bled, my skin tore, my head imploded. I balled my fist to stop myself from screaming. Someone pulled me by my feet and slapped my buttocks. With my head hanging down, my cries spewed from me. I was wrapped in cloth that flayed me. I heard a man's anxious voice. "Boy or girl?" No one replied. The man grabbed me and tried to tear open my swaddling. He was interrupted by a woman's quiet wail. "Another girl, my lord." "Ah!" he cried, before dissolving into tears. A dozen women watched over me as I grew. 3 wet nurses took turns quenching my thirst. My appetite was frightening. I was already laughing. My eyes were great black pearls rolling in their sockets. I looked on the world day and night, never wanting to sleep. My mother was worried by my constant agitation. She called on a number of exorcist monks, but no one succeeded in expelling the demon from me. I eventually grew weary of their fears. Behind the gauze of my mosquito net, I pretended to sleep to have some peace, while a woman sang as she rocked my cradle. Another waved a fan to waft the odd fly that had strayed into the perfumed universe. With my eyelids closed, I let my thoughts fly away. The kingdom that Father ruled as absolute master was divided into 2 parts. The front quarter was reserved for men: stewards, secretaries, accountants, cooks, pages, valets, grooms, guards, and lackeys busied themselves from the first light of dawn. Government officials took their orders and set off on horseback. Troops of soldiers undertook training exercises all day long in the great courtyard to the side. This virile world ended before the Vermilion Gate, where the Gynoeceum began. Behind the high snow-colored wall lived hundreds of women, old, young, and little girls. They wore their hair in top knots pinned with flowers that had jade rings threaded into their silk belts. It was the 8th year of the martial virtue. Fashion favored the parlor of early spring. Dresses were crocus yellow, the soft green of narcissus leaves, the pleasing pink of cherry blossom, and the crimson of the sun reflected in the lake. Sweepers, servants, seamstresses, embroiderers, bearers, wet nurses, cooks, governesses, stewards, gracious attendants, singers, dancers, all of them moved slowly with composure and spoke in hushed tones. They rose at dawn, bathed at dusk. They were the flowers of my father's garden, blossoming to compete with the beauty of one person alone. Mother dressed soberly. Her least little cough was a command, her every gaze an order. She was naturally elegant, fashion changed and flitting butterfly. Mother maintained an eternal springtime. She was of the Yang clan, from the Hongdong region, one of 30 most noble families in the empire. As a daughter, niece, and sister to the eminent ministers, a cousin to imperial brides, and close relation to the emperor and princesses, Mother wore her dignity like a jewel, a cloak, a crown. She gave alms to the monasteries and distributed food to beggars. She was a fervent Buddhist, observing a vegetarian diet and showing no interest in the turmoil of this lowly world. She copied out the sutras in her careful hand and dreamed of reaching the land of extreme joy, the kingdom of Buddha Amida, he who launches countless rays of light. Mother was cold, delicate, soothing. Her gentleness was cutting and opaque, and reminded me of the jade disc that hung over my cradle. I wanted her. I grew agitated waiting. She would appear from time to time after several days of absence. When she arrived, her long silk train and her endless muslin shawl set with the curtains in my room a quiver. The ground, kissed by her slippered feet, whispered with pleasure. Her perfume went before her. It smelled of sunlight, snow, the east wind, flowers laden with happiness. She never took me in her arms, happy to contemplate me from a distance. My eyes consumed her hungrily. Her lips were two scarlet petals, her face as perfectly smooth as a mirror. Beneath her eyebrows, which had been shaved and redrawn in the shape of a cicada wing, her eyes betrayed her disappointment. She had desired a boy. Can you imagine that being your entrance into the world? So obviously Shan Sa is writing in the first person from the perspective of conception to birth and so on in our main character's life. I highly recommend you pick this one up. Again, this is Empress by Shan Sa. It is an old favorite. A lot of people comment on the state of my books when I read from actual hardbacks and softbacks. It is because I read my books. So yes, they look worn because they are worn and well loved. Well, the reason I chose this story, and I'm not going to read the whole book, but I want you to get interested in it because this is one of the stories that after reading so much of Amy Tan's works, Shan Sa was the next author I discovered when I was younger, looking for more stories about women who came out of ancient Chinese dynasties. The reason that that's a particular interest for me is because it is a world so different from the one I was raised in. Remember, when we are reading fiction, even historical fiction, which this is, it's historical fiction, we evaluate works based on the time and place in which they were written. Context is everything. So I don't look at a work like this and say, oh, well, that's not how I live. This is terrible. No, this is a place and time that did exist. Even if the characters are fictionalized, this is a world that existed. And as I read these types of stories, I cannot help but examine my own world. It is so easy, coming from a place of I, as a 40-something in 2025 America, to bemoan my outcast state. If you know where that's from, you're my people. She was an English major. But do I have an outcast state? There's a lot that came before me for me to have the existence that I have today. Friends, the sentiments shared in this novel regarding wanting a male child are not unique to Imperial China. They're not. Historically, many cultures, most cultures I would wager, valued passing on family lineage, wealth, knowledge, prosperity, everything, the name, via the bloodline through the male. Period. Everyone wanted a boy. Boys were going to be the guarantee of riches into the family. Boys ensured the bloodline would continue. Boys ensured a place in society because historically, most societies, not all, there are some matriarchal societies that do exist. We'll talk about those on another day. But most societies have been set up in a patriarchy where men rule. So to have a place in that world, you needed a boy in order to have prosperity. And that boy needed to marry a girl from an equally prosperous family so that everyone gets richer together or prospers more together. A family could literally change their fate by having their children marry the right person. So even for the boys, it's no picnic because they're not going to pick their bride. Their bride's going to be picked for them. Can you imagine? I know there are still cultures that do arranged marriage, and from what I understand, arranged marriages have the lowest rate of divorce. That's something else we can discuss another day. But from my Western, modern American sensibility, I cannot imagine what it would feel like. One, that when I was born, I was undesirable because I was male, wasn't male. Two, that I would be a useless branch on the family tree because in the context of this society, girls are being raised to be sent to another family. You are guarding the treasure that belongs to another family. Girls grow up and marry out. Boys bring their brides home. So boys grow the home while girls only take away from it. Her children will be the grandchildren of her in-laws, not just of her natal family. So you have to feed her, clothe her, maybe educate her, keep her safe, bind her feet, spend all of this time, effort, money into raising someone who doesn't belong to you, which is part of the reason they married him out as early as possible. We are horrified, and should be, at marrying people out at 13, 14, 15 years old. Absolutely not. But when you're trying to get her out, and life expectancy isn't that long, get out. Get out, get out, get out. That is the context. And it's not that parents didn't love their children, but they're practicing the ways that were passed down to them. Her parents are raised to want a boy, and she has the unfortunate position of being born into the imperial household, her mother being Empress. So the Empress has to have a boy. There has to be a prince. I've talked in other novel readings by different authors, Lisa C., An Chi Min, Shan Sa, Lisa Singh, about how even if the Empress, who is the first wife to the emperor, has a male child, doesn't guarantee they're getting the throne. He's going to pick the son he wants. It behooves her, though, to have as close to the firstborn male as she can, if not the first one. To be disappointed. Lisa C. in several of her books says it so well, especially Snowflower and the Secret Fan, and this is what made me have so much more tenderness towards this version of society. Is one of the central characters in Snowflower, being Snowflower and the Secret Fan. She writes in her diaries that I was a pearl in my father's palm. The girls are still precious to their families, they're just not allowed to show it. Fathers have to weep inwardly. When I read that my father wept to see that I was a girl and not a boy, I think two things happened there. One, no son, obviously. But I think the other thing was he knows what his daughter's in for. The life in the imperial harem is hell. It's not a prize. It's lipstick on my teeth. It's not a prize to be born into the imperial harem or graduate into it or wed into it. It's a competition, a fierce one. Them ladies are out for blood. They will take you out and your babies if they can. It's not a good time. He knows that this daughter is now a bargaining chip. He knows that her life is going to be completely planned for her. She'll have no agency. He knows that he is going to have to see his precious pearl from the palm of his hand be taken away by strangers, and where he will have her in a garden, guarded and well cared for. Who knows? When he takes his precious pearl and places her in the hand of another, will that hand care for her the way he cared for her? Even though this mother doesn't pick up her baby, it is so easy to judge. That mother knows this baby isn't hers. She knows that this baby is going away. This girl, child. I want to love you, but I don't get to keep you. So I'm not going to hurt my heart because I know I'm going to lose you one day. There'll be a day I never see you again, and I can't stand the pain because I've already caused my mother that pain. When you look at it that way, the reason I read this during Thanksgiving is these stories remind me that regardless of what all's going on out there, and yeah, there's a lot going on out there. Look at me. There's a lot going on out there. The world is too much sometimes. It is. And when it gets to the holiday season and we think about our families, our circumstances, who was with us, who we're missing, it's so easy to think and want better. And there's nothing wrong with wanting better. But once in a while we need to pick up a story that reminds us this is what could have been. I am a black female in America in 2025 by luck of birth. So many other people had to make babies for me to exist right now. And because they did when they did, I get the benefit of being a free person. When I was born, my parents weren't disappointed that I was a girl. When my father chose to move us from my home state to Tennessee when I was 2 years old. I say I'm from Nashville, but he moved us there when I was 2, so I don't remember my home state at all. My birth state, I wouldn't consider it home. You know, his father and mother were not happy about it. But my father wasn't going to let them dictate the future of his children. He knew by moving us that he would give his family, his children, a better chance. When I got older and I turned into the kid who wore the Jinko jeans and the colored her hair and was gothing out, my parents didn't rail against it. They let me have my emotions, feelings, and whatever. When the other relatives were like, is she okay? Because of my outward appearance, my parents stood up for me and said, she's just going through whatever teenagers go through. Were my parents perfect? Absolutely not. None of you have perfect parents. But I will give them their flowers, and that they saw value in me, even though I was a girl. And I would love to say what I've read is trapped within the pages of this book, that people aren't still born into circumstances where they wished for a girl, or they wished for a boy, or they wished for nothing at all. Not every child who's born is wanted. Not every child who's born is born into great circumstances. You and I, we have different perspectives on life because of where we were born, how we were socialized, and the experiences that make up the sum total of who we are. That's why you never judge a work outside of the context in which it's written. What we can do, though, is look at this work and say, man, I've had hard times. I have. We all have. You have. Your feelings are valid. But what I know I can do is that somebody born into these circumstances can crawl out of so much adversity and do something with their life, with what they've been given. What excuse do I have? My ancestors in this country had no choices. A lot of people shed a lot of blood so that I could sit here and have a YouTube channel and read this book. My job, my real job, would not have been an option for me, probably even just 50 years ago. This is recent history. So I sit here thankful that I was born at a time and place where being a girl doesn't keep me from being everything that I can be, that being a girl is not a detriment, that I take pride in my femininity, that pink is my favorite color, that collecting is not weird, that I can go to work. Yeah, I go to work with this pink old hair, and it's okay, because that was not so just a few years ago. If you come from a culture where some of these things are still practiced, culture is culture. None of us can help where we're born. You didn't get to decide. I didn't get to decide either. But let's look at what we have. We're born into a place and time, and we've got to make the best with what we have. And even if it feels so minute, so far away, so impossible, let's do our best to be thankful for those things that we can have and celebrate. I hope you enjoyed that. This is just a little video on thankfulness. These videos aren't going to be super long. Again, that was Empress by Shan Sa. Highly recommend that you go pick it up. Please let me know what you think down in the comments. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.